And we move at light speed. Last of a dying breed. My Akis move at light speed.
I can feel eyes on me everywhere I go. Not paranoid or conceited, but...
Good day, brothers and sisters. All right, now, why am I showing you this diagram? It's because everything is biology. I want you to kind of understand the muscle structure of the human body. It also includes some skeletal, because this is how you need to look to prove what I'm trying to tell you. Now, what I mean when I tell you that the Bible is a roadmap, and these stories, if you read them backwards, because they go out through time, okay? So the story that is at the end of a story that's laid upon the ground, you're going to see that better than you would see, let's say, 90 years when the story began. Including, or not including, I believe that the book of Daniel, is a great way to explain this. It also explains reincarnation and how we transfer from bodies to bodies throughout time. My guess is they wanted 5 children from Cain and 5 children from Abel. So they wanted, this was in Babylon, okay, people? This was Babylon back then. This is the Persian Empire and all that stuff outside of Afghanistan and Iran. This illustration right here is from the book. I've done it. I don't know if it's on here or not. It's probably on one of the deleted channels. But if you look back there, you can see a boot, right? A boot and a foot carved out of the ground. And then it shows the structure, which obviously they made the structure out of the material they got from out of the ground, which was erecting this thing back up. That's what it's talking about in it, talking about with iron tools. That's what they're talking about with iron. They're talking about tools. Talking about clay and building it, falling and then being erected back up. That's a map right there. I believe this is what the place maybe looked like before it happened, maybe. I don't know. This guy's illustrations are pretty wild. But you can see that it looks like a map. And literally what it's talking about in there, you can see. But there's a couple key points that I want to hit, with this being one of them. Here it's talking about the horns and how these horns, which come from the tree, they're the roots of the tree. And one of these horns actually came out of the ground. And there are other horns, because if you look at it, even if you're looking at the sky and everything, you see how things go through time, how it layers on top of one another. So this was one of the littler horns, and it come up out the ground, and then it fall back down, and it come from this massive, what they classify as a lord, which they describe as a massive head, a giant head. And these creatures, they even say these beasts, all this stuff, even these kings and everything, they all come out of these heads, which is why they took all these pieces to from Jerusalem and brought them all the way over to Babylon, which is the Persian Empire, which now is Afghanistan and all that stuff. One of the things it mentions right here, it talks about a forecast his devices against the strongholds even for a time. And then you go to 25, it says, shall forecast devices against him. Doesn't that sound like weather modification? Weather weapons? Forecast devices? Because they brought all these wild devices from out of the head, from like the heart, all this gold and everything. And what they were supposed to do is they were supposed to divide it amongst the lands and the people. And they weren't doing this. So the signs kept coming. Now this right here could be the hand they're talking about where everything comes out of, possibly. Now this is Rome, which the Roman Empire and all that stuff. And then we come down here. Here's Cairo, Egypt, which I believe Cairo actually comes from somewhere else. There's the giant head right there. You see the horn. You see how there should be a horn coming out of his head? And then right there's the horn. It came up out of that head right there to the right, and it dropped right there to the left. And when it talks about the 4 kings or whatever, here they are right here. 4 massive heads spanning across the land. See the one right there? Looks like a goat or a lion. Yep, you see the lion? Now, the reason why I'm taking you up here to Rome and all that, because I don't really want to touch over here just yet. I kind of want to go to Rome and staying in Rome. This right here, I just did a little thing where I believe Cairo or whatever come from. It come from up over here. I think it come up out the ground over here and landed over there. Because there's a spot over here, I think right there. Yeah, right there. Go straight down. Nope, not right there. It was to the right. Not this one. And I believe that's where it came from. But up at the Vatican, where the Vatican is, obviously where the Roman Empire was and all that, it looks like devil horns. It looks like a claw hand, which is what they're representing. They're representing this alien hand is what most people would call it. So you look at Italy, there's Rome. Not to mention, I just saw some video of possibly a reptilian or something walking with a bunch of bishops. It kind of looked like some alien wearing a cardinal's outfit with a bunch of bishops. But speaking of that, we're about to see exactly, because you saw the hand, you saw the claw hand, you saw that it's kind of in the shape of devil horns, right? As they call it, that's what they call it, devil horns, even though I think it has to deal with this hand of this, what they call a god, but it's not a god, it's a lord. It's just a very old lord, because there's only one God. The God I talk about is the God of gods. That's not what these people are talking about. You can't make the image of my Father. It's not possible.
I'm trying to live above the influence, y'all living under it. Y'all running from the truth, but soon I will uncover it. This is the matrix, we stuck in it, I'm not loving it. Fuck this shit, man, the government knows that we outnumber it. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, false religious documents, media, corporations, and politics. You think your lack of common sense don't have a consequence? We're fucking doomed unless we elevate our consciousness. The new world order, man, these people just won't compromise. I try to tell people about it and get ostracized. Man, don't you know that the media is monopolized? It's mental conditioning, listening to constant lies. And I'm not surprised that people know and they still don't care. This distribution to wealth is fucked, man, it isn't fair. What will we do when we're hungry? We'll lead the billionaires. Ball up your motherfucking fist and put it in the air. Don't let nobody tell you what to do. Resist. I'll show you how to do it like this. Rebel. We're already living in hell. Rebel. We're already living in hell. Refuse. Don't let nobody tell you what to do. Resist. I'll show you how to do it like this. Rebel. We're already living in hell. Rebel. everybody but me. We living in the dark and not everybody can see. Illuminati got their eye out, they watching you pee. But in America, we dumb as could possibly be. One nation under God, it's the home of the slaves. It's on the back of dollar bills getting thrown in our face. The TV says to do it, everyone goes and obeys. Literally stop until you drop it, you gon' get brave. Meanwhile, our country's turned into a police state. Caught up in 1984 remake. And everybody's at the mall eating cheesecake. Or partying and drinking till they can't think straight. Wake up, it shouldn't be like this. Living in some sort of sick reality with a twist. Wake up, and I'll be screaming like this until I cease to exist. I'll never cease or desist. Don't let nobody tell you what to do. I'll show you how to do it like this. We're already living in hell. We're already living in hell. Don't let nobody tell you what to do. I'll show you how to do it like this. We're already living in hell. We're already living in hell. Yeah, man. That's where I think the term freedom comes from. You know what I'm saying? Cause you must be dumb if you think we're free. We live in fucking captivity. Open up your eyes. Work, buy, control, die. Work, buy, control,
You gotta take the oath. There is no ifs, ands about it. You're gonna take the oath. Just because you get a recording contract don't mean that you're part of the elite. You're just on the recording contract, and yes, you have to take the oath whenever you get a contract, but you're not necessarily a part of the elite because you're not making any money. The people who are a part of the elite and do blood sacrifices to get to where they are, they've been hand chosen. And they went to them and said, look, we believe that you can be an asset to our family. Are you willing to be a part of the family? We can put you at the 20 million mark. We can put you at the 30 million mark. And you'd be like, well, what do I have to do?
Of course you're uncertain, Cal. Naturally, so was I, till I met him. Now imagine, if you can, a life without uncertainty, freedom from doubt, the ability to choose, single-mindedness. One life from each of us counts, oh yes, and he rewards our devotion 1,000-fold. Personal desires, oh yes, of course, anything. That's part of it. It's only the beginning. There was a time, Cal, when man was at one with the gods before the fall. Now we're at one again. Cal, I want you to join us.
Give you a taste of the good life. You know, they take you on private vacations to isolated islands, or you get the penthouse suites and hotels. You get yachts, private jets, shopping trips. They lavish you with gifts. They make it look like it's the good life. This is the good life. Join us. You can have anything you want. You are a god. You can have the world. This is what they tell them. They don't tell them the small writing. And so people get infatuated by the luxury and the lavishness of being, running elbows with the rich and the elite. You own private jets and yachts and islands. And it's the good life. They're treated very well. And then they join. They decide, okay, I'm going to join. I'm going to join with you guys. And you start moving through the levels and you realize, hey, wait a minute, this isn't what I signed up for. Because then you start learning the ghastly truth of Satanism. And then when you get in, it's rituals, eating babies' hearts, sacrificing babies, drinking blood, being forced to have, if you're married, adulterous relationships because all of them are forced into adultery. Satan doesn't honor a marriage. You're married to him. Satanists have their own services that mock Christian services. They have them almost every weekend. They have them in underground churches across America. And they do everything opposite and against what a real church would do. Why would you want to join a group of people that think eating feces and drinking urine is fun? It's not optional. You have to do it. They all do it. And they don't complain. They get beyond that stage. They don't complain. They do it. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, what do? You go to an underground Hollywood club, a super secret Satanist club. Do they serve feces on toothpicks? These people are nasty. And you tell us the sheer demonism, demonic beings that control them, that make them do it. I mean, what human could eat feces and not just puke? Eating feces is huge with some. Huge. Anything abominable is high-ranking with Satan. Anything that we would think is totally inhuman, abominable, then that's what you must do in Satan's realm. These groups are huge. There could be 100, 200 people at a gathering. They meet on estates in people's mansions, often on a Friday or Saturday night, so it looks like the person's having a party, maybe. They meet in churches on Saturdays, underneath Catholic churches, for rituals. They have these rituals where they bring in animals. And this weekend, pretty much all the groups had donkeys. And they force all the members to have sexual relations, bestiality with the donkey. Okay, you've been on my nerves for 2 months, you get the cat. And you've been on my nerves for a month, you get the dog. And you, the highest ranking of us all, you get the donkey. She chooses who gets what. And she forces them to be sodomized. They all do this, not just her. They force them to be sodomized by donkeys. They force them to perform fellatio on donkeys. And nobody gets away with it just because you're the president of the United States who goes to the Chicago ones where Penny Pritzker is in charge. Just because you're the president doesn't mean you get out. It means you have to give more. Because you've got the highest rank in the land, more abominable things are expected of you. It goes on. One of the biggest things you give up is any kind of humanity. It's nothing but about humiliation and degradation. You want more, you have to give more. You have to give up everything about human, what makes you human. And they all don't sit around in their black robes. That's so Hollywood. Because in all these rituals, a big part of them is the orgies that take place. They all take their clothes off. They're all doing drugs. It's part of their requirements. When you serve Satan, your duties never end. It's always more and more and more and more. And on top of eating poop and drinking urine and practicing bestiality with donkeys, you have to sacrifice. You have to cause death and suffering. And when you cause death and suffering, it's accredited to you, and that's more power that you get. These people are willing to have sex with donkeys to help ask people to support their fashion lines, because you don't get a big name brand in America unless you're one of them. So Kanye West is coming out with a new fashion line. He wants everybody's support. So yeah, he'll do his rituals in Chicago and ask for everybody's support.
What happens? They start thinking about things. They conscious world, and they get these phone calls saying you didn't throw up the coat today. And notice you didn't do those subliminal messages like we told you to in your record. So what's up with you? I'm just having a Paris breakdown. Get your ass together and get your act together. See, Fantasia tried that, and they got her back on track. I'm telling you, they had them second thoughts. It's too late. You get me? Fantasia got in too deep. Now, when she had first won American Idol, she should have just took the contract and left it alone. But see, they want more. And how they dangle stuff in front of you. The way you going, you get a shoe line, you get a jog line, you get these clothing, your shirt. How would you like all that? Just keep doing what you do. They're putting it in your head, so later on they're gonna pick your ass and say, "You gave it a thought to want to go higher? I would love to be in a $20 million club." Okay. Then they have one of them women come. See, a man ain't gonna talk. Have a woman that's of the sisterhood be like, "Well, this is what we need you to do." I ain't fucking him off. Don't tell me what you ain't gonna do, ho. You gonna suck them off, and you gonna let all the other guys go up in you. And if you don't do it, you will not have the money you have now. We're gonna freeze your account, and if you tell the secrets, we'll kill your family. And she be like, "What you talking about? They got pictures of your family, man." Once you become a part of these people, they have private investigators to go around taking pictures of your family. Did you know that?
When you join into Satan's kingdom and you join the high levels of the brotherhood, it's expected of you to be as vile as possible. If you can't be vile, you're not going to get anything. You stop going to the meetings and you stop going to rituals, you start slowly losing everything that you had built up. You have to give to get in Satan's kingdom. They didn't have to do rituals. These freaks are always needing to do rituals together. Because if you want the movie roles coming in, then you've got to keep doing the rituals. If you want more fame as a singer, you want more time on the award shows, then you've got to be doing your time in the rituals. If you don't do your time in the rituals, then you suffer. Satan makes you pay. If you want to be a celebrity in Hollywood, then your attendance at these parties is going to be mandatory. Eating feces, drinking urine, having illicit sex with these old men. You give up everything.
See, that's dealing with the realization that they sold. They can't. See, every day they have to be high. They have to be on a planet of nowhere, because when you really think about what you've done for a few dollars, and they sad as hell. Everybody asks that question in the hood. But damn, man, they got them houses, they got all them freaks. How could they be sad? Because the Lord make you shame-faced after so long. The Lord put the shame on you and show you to your face. You sold out for a seat.
If your ultimate goal is to be famous, then you're gonna do a lot to get there. Like sign your name in blood in a contract with the devil.
So in Daniel, it talks about there being 5 kings. It only references 4 kings. The third king, literally, whenever he described him, the writing on the wall, which was because he's doing, they keep making these rules about religion and everything, because they keep appointing Daniel and the others and the other 4, which they gave him new names. So Daniel ended up becoming Belteshazzar or something, and then Nebuchadnezzar was the king, and then or Belteshazzar or something, and then his son, and then there was Cyrus or something. I think he was the one, and then Darius was the 4th one, and it doesn't talk about a 5th one. It does not talk about a 5th one, but it says the 5th one will. Just read it, dude, because it gets a little confusing. You have to read it like 2 or 3 times to even understand Daniel. And then you want to go back and you want to look at the map of these areas, and you want to see these massive heads laying upon the ground, because remember, these things go up and they come down. They come from the earth and then they go back down. Some of the things come out of the earth, right? And then they go up into the sky. They don't come back down. So what are one of these things that we hear of this happening? Everybody talks about this man named Jesus, who was bred and groomed to be Messiah operated miracles with the Christ Spirit, with the Spirit of our Father. And when it was all said and done, he was taken away. Same thing happened with Enoch. Then the same thing happened with, no, I don't know if that happened with Moses, because I believe Moses, which actually, if you go look up, they believe there's this cave they found. And like at the mouth of the cave, right next to it or right inside of it, there's this huge skull. And they believe that to be something to do with Moses. And I'm not talking about like a massive skull like we see like these lords or what they call these angels. We're talking something that possibly came out of one of these things. Remember, it's all layered on the ground. They were, not to mention that these things were sent underground, and it's promised that they are to return, to come out from under the ground. But I've been instructed that it is all being done in the Spirit. And it has been being done in the Spirit for a long time. But right now it's like no holds. It's full out. And this is why, man, they've been grooming this stuff and they've been doing this for a very long time. The vaccines themselves is a great reference. Go watch my Super Bowl video. That is a great reference to whenever Jesus destroyed that temple. He didn't destroy the temple. He went in there and he flipped the tables over and did all sorts of, he was running around like a madman. And then as he leaves, he tells a kid that the place will fall. It took him 47 years or whatever, 48 years to build the temple. He said it would fall in 3 days. Literally fell in 3 days. That's how long they've been reverse that and look at it backwards. And what they're doing with the vaccines and how long the vaccines have been out and what they're doing on the year that would complete the whole thing. So all we got to do, people, is think. And the roadmap is literally written for all. And don't forget, when you're sitting here thinking about that this new shot, it's not a vaccine, because a vaccine would go through all these trials and all of these things, and it would take a long time, and it would prevent or to stop, which they say that's what it's there to do. How many boosters are there for this new one? Right? You can get the jab and you can get 2 boosters. That's 3 shots. Fallen in 3 days, 3 shots. They administer them within a 3 months time span. Every 30 days you go take it. It's a direct reflection, opposite reflection of the story of when Jesus went to that temple. And they were selling and buying. They were doing against God's will. Just like here in Babylon. Now, these men wouldn't worship their idols or anything like that. So they threw them in a fiery furnace. They walked out unburnt, unscathed. Just because Daniel was shown the landscape, literally showed up to dude's place, saw what he was digging up, what he was doing with their tools and everything, and literally was able to see exactly what his vision was. And was able to tell it for him. That actually is what set up his ministry. And then they tried telling them that there were certain times for them to pray, that they would throw them to the lions. They did that too. Same thing happened. But you know what's funny about the whole story is that if you let things just play out the way they should have played out, Nebuchadnezzar was going to kill all of the sorcerers, all of the magician, all of those people. He was going to, whenever all started, he was running around, he was going to kill all of them because none of them could tell him his vision. Now think about that. Think if he ran around and he actually did kill all those people. Would we have the government, the bank systems that we have right now? Would we even have that? Because it was out of those children that were born. Remember, he's going to kill all their wives and all their midwives and all the children's too. So there wouldn't have been no lineages. So think about it. Would we have a government if that would have happened? The government we have right now? The bank system we have right now? Think about that. And may peace be with you all.